Hi everyone, Missy Coder back again with part 2 of my live game dev interview with Jason Booth, the creator of MicroSplat and MegaSplat, the Unity shader legend. This video was taken from my live Twitch stream from allthews.twitch.tv/themessycoder, where every Friday and Saturday you can catch me playing games, having a laugh on Twitch, doing some game dev coding every Saturday from 9 PM UK time. I do have a live game dev interview. Do ignore the helicopter outside my window. I think they might be coming to take me away. And in this video we're going to learn how you can use MicroSplat. That's right, it's not just a game dev interview, it's a tutorial on how we can use MicroSplat. So sit back, enjoy, and I'll see you all in a second.
So if you hit the convert to MicroSplat button, that'll actually convert this stuff.
I've got nothing in the template material. Per texture data's got none, and blend map's got none. So just click convert.
Which reminds me, I should probably hide that stuff until you're actually converted.
It is a little bit scary.
Yeah. I tried to, with MicroSplat, MegaSplat is much more of like a, like I would use. Whereas MicroSplat's like really trying to like make it foolproof as much as possible.
Right, here we go. Look at this.
Yeah, so once you press convert, what it's actually going to do is create a MicroSplat data directory. And this is where it holds all of its stuff. And it's going to bring you to the texture array config. And by default, this is on what I call basic mode, where it just takes a diffuse map and a normal map. But I would immediately switch over to PBR mode because I have height maps for all this stuff. So right up at the top, you can switch from basic to PBR.
Okay. Can you see my screen? Are you still? Is my Skype updated for you? Is my Skype frozen again?
The Skype looks updated.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll try it on the Skype. Okay, so now you can see it has all the extra slots for height and stuff.
Yeah.
So basically, if you click on the normal, it's going to jump to where the normal map is, so that we can just drag those things in there easily.
There we go.
So now just drag the height and the smoothness and stuff in there.
Ooh.
So the reason I did it this way is that a lot of people don't have these maps, and what MicroSplat will try to do is it'll look at whatever data it does have and try to create them. So it'll look at the normal map and try to create a height map from it. If it doesn't have a normal map, it'll look at the diffuse map, and it'll try and create a height map from it. It'll create a smoothness and AO map as well, but they're not going to be nearly as nice as something that you've handcrafted or done in Substance or scanned or whatever. So yeah, once you get those in there,
Can I use something like the Mega Scans Quixel stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can use any of that. And if you're on so Unity removed Substance support in 2000, or they started warning for it in 2017, removed it in 18. So in older versions of Unity, there's a Substance slot here, so you can just plug the Substance in instead of having to do this. So don't worry about that last one because it's unused. That's just because it's my test demo project that we branched this off of. It's got some cruft in it. But if you scroll down to the bottom and hit update.
Okay. It's got a little.
This will update the texture arrays.
Oh, okay.
And then it will update all the textures with the real data when it's done.
So Fresh is asking, is Substance coming back to default Unity?
They are doing some kind of Substance plugin. Apparently there's a version of it out, but I haven't looked at it yet. So at some point I will, just to figure out what I should do with that. So now you select your terrain.
Mm-hmm. Here it is. Oh,
okay,
look, now it says MicroSplat.
And you can see that it's got the material.
Yep.
If you double click on the material here, the material template, or template material.
Which one?
Here's basically.
Yep.
Yeah, that one. So the way that MicroSplat works is that if you get the free version, there's just the top little section available to you. And as you buy more modules, it adds more code to the system, which adds more options. And so you have all the modules, so there's just a ton of options here. But for instance, if you turn on, let's do set normal noise to 1. It's off.
Normal. Where is it?
It's in the middle.
It's in the
under
middle.
Distance resample and distance noise. Yeah.
I'm turning to people that I sit there going, hang on, here? No.
It's up.
Oh, here you go.
So there's
Distance,
top
detail,
shader
normal
generator.
noise, off, 1, 2, 3. I'm looking for like a dial like this, not a select menu.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you select this, what it's going to do is it's going to recompile the shader. So it rewrites all the shader code to be different.
Cool.
And adds a new feature to it. Now, if you go down, let's just correct the UV scales because they're a little weird here. If you see the global UV scale under the splat section.
Yeah. Where is that? No, yeah.
It set those both to like 120, 120.
Thank you for the follow, by the way. We just had a follow come in.
Okay, now our scales are more reasonable. And then go down a little further.
Yep.
So now we can see that it's added some options for the noise normal here. And this is a part of the anti-tiling toolkit. And it's basically just taking another normal map and tiling it in to kind of break up the terrain textures so that they don't, it's not as obvious that they're tiling, right? And so basically, this is kind of the pattern is that you decide what features to turn on and set whatever settings you want for them. It recompiles the shader for you and writes a new shader for you with just those features in it, so you're not paying performance costs for anything you're not using. And then you get new parameters to plug in your own data. And it will try to plug in textures automatically. Like it basically has some default textures that it just will use, right? Oh, I think you're. Oh no, it's back.
Okay. Technology.
Right.
All right.
So what else? You can click on tessellation, for instance, and then if you zoom in, you'll see some nice tessellated detail.
Okay.
And you can see it's added the tessellation parameters here that are adjustable.
Oh,
and now if you zoom in, you can.
Pretty.
So yeah, and then if you go over to your material again, you can adjust those parameters and make the displacement more, or make the tessellation more, so that you get more vertices.
So I'm going to lock that. Oh, yee, oh. Have we got any tool tips and stuff? Yeah, you do. Nice. I always like a tool tip.
Yeah, every tool tip. Everything's documented as well. And I actually include the documentation for all of the modules in the core module, so you can look it all over before you actually buy any of them and make sure it's the right thing.
We just got Bacon Ramsey in chat. Bacon, if you, after this stream, obviously, not now, if you go onto Twitch, you can see recordings of last week's stream where I'm actually testing out and playing with Ultimate Survival's 0.1 enhanced and showing like some small customization that we did by adding mineable rocks. So sorry about that, buddy.
Turn on. Okay, so up bias is, do you want the extrusion to happen along the normal? So if you're on a cliff, it should come out, or do you want it to happen straight up? And it's a blend between those. So you can basically be like mostly straight up, right? Shaping actually controls how there's two things is MIP bias and shaping, and they control essentially how soft the displacement is. So if you have really high displacement, you can get this kind of shimmery thing where you see the polygons displacing.
Yeah.
And they can sort of adjust that. And then you have a min and max distance. And the cool thing about MicroSplat is that when you hit the max distance, it's no longer tessellating the terrain, and you're not paying any cost for that anymore.
Nice. Yes.
So it actually ends up really fast.
Because no one's going to see that because you're far away from it.
Right, and a lot of times what happens with shader systems is they have to tessellate the entire mesh that they're working on. But Unity has this thing the way they swap the textures. I mean, sorry, the shaders. And so I piggyback off that and figure out what the minimal distance I can swap. And other features fall off like that too, that you won't notice from afar. So go ahead and turn on wind particulate as an example.
There's a question here. Tessellation will make your character's feet appear in the ground? Question mark. So, like, if I
okay, so there's
that's
actually
a very good question.
there's yeah, okay, so that's kind of a subject. Let's go down to the bottom of the UI.
Yep.
The very bottom, and there's a per texture property for per texture displacement or displacement offset, something like that.
This one here.
It's hard to see on the stream. Let me just flip over to mine so I can see it because I can't see in the stream very well.
You know, what was the Skype frozen again?
It's just kind of, it's doing its thing. Test offset, it's called.
Ah, okay.
Okay. So when you turn that on, there's a button for compute ideal offset.
Yep.
And if you hit that, what it'll do is normalize all the textures so that the displacement is from the middle of each texture. And that will allow you to get the most amount of tessellation with the collision geometry in the middle at all times. Now your feet will still go through there unless you write some kind of IK controller or something like that to actually read the tessellated offset and figure out what the offset should be. And I actually did this for MegaSplat, and there's some videos of that online you can look at. But yeah, I never quite got it to the point where it was 100% perfect. So there's code for some of it, but I never integrated it into like another IK package. What most AAA games do is not actually do any of that. They just sort of find the ideal offset and keep the offset within reason.
So it kind of cheats it.
Yeah, I mean, like everything in games, you got to sort of balance things between actual solutions and sort of good enough. And depending on what you want to do, you might want to write an actual solution that figures out the tessellation and adjusts the foot accordingly if you have a game where you're really going to have a camera that's going to show that off. But I don't provide a component for MicroSplat for that. I do provide some tooling for that for MegaSplat, but you still have to do the integration with the IK yourself.
Cool.
So yeah, let's go up and show off some fun stuff. If you go up to the top.
Yep.
And then turn on the wind particulate. Modes is with or without shadows.
Okay, which one do we want?
This is let's do it with shadows. Why not? And again, it's going to recompile the shader to add the new code. So this I did for like journey type games, like desert environments and sand and stuff. And it was really kind of fun to do. And I'm going to go ahead and do this on mine because I can barely see on yours. Just so I'm sort of following along here. So this is part of the wind and I think wind and glitter module, I called it. So it does like the journey style sparkly sand, and it does this sort of wind particulate effect. And so it's kind of fun because I have this modular system, right? I can add these kind of things to the shader, and nobody has to pay for it unless they're using it, and both literally and performance-wise. And it allows me to add a bunch of things to the shader that most terrain shaders would never have because the cost would be too much when you're not using it, right?
So all
right. So do you see you should see like sort of dust roaming across the terrain?
Let me
see if I can see on your screen. It's like a low down.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
The hell?
So that's, if you're doing a desert scene or something like that, super cool. I also have one for when you have snow enabled, so you can have that going over your snow, and it has its own set of parameters for the snow one, so it doesn't have to, if you have a scene with desert and snow, you could even have those together, and they could all have different parameters. And you'll see in the wind particulate, you can change its color, its shadow strength, how much it is. You can stretch it out so you get long bands or whatever you want, really.
Hang on. So advanced details.
So scroll down to where the parameters are.
Is that one? No, okay, I'm gonna click the wrong thing. Hang on.
Oh, you turned on advanced details?
Yeah, I'm an idiot.
So the funny thing about that pack is I didn't write it. Somebody else wrote advanced details, which is really cool.
Huh.
Because it's a modular system, I allow other asset store authors to write plugins for it as well. And what that package does is allow you to paint. So MicroSplat supports 32 textures on the terrain. That will let you paint up to, I think it's either 16 or 32 extra textures on the terrain for detailing. And so you can do things like make leaves which alpha blend with the terrain, and then paint leaves under your tree and things like that.
Wow. Okay, we're going to have to do another stream just about that, I think.
Yeah, MicroSplat has a ton of features. So yeah, if you go down into that lower section, you can see all the parameters for the wind.
Yeah, how do I make
stuff.
It stretched?
So if you look, there's a scale. If you change that to like 0.1, for instance.
Okay, it was 0.25 and now I've got a 0.1.
Sorry, there's a stretch. So stretch is currently, if you set scale at 0.25, leave it like it was, and then set the stretch to like 0.2.
Okay.
Then you'll get long wispy bands, right? Which for like desert, as opposed to like tumbleweeds or something, maybe. You can kind of play with those looks. You can change the color and the shadow strength of it.
Yeah, I've made it red.
It actually does cast shadow.
Shadow strength.
Yeah, you can mask it by height and angle, so it doesn't appear on slopes.
Oh, okay. Let's do that.
So you can see the height mask and the angle mask.
Yeah. So if I don't want it to appear on my
the height
slopes.
mask.
Yeah.
So yeah, then set. Let's see here. Let me do it on mine first. Set. I forget which way the space is. Hang on. It'll probably say in the docs too, or in the overlay. Let me see here. Angle mask.
Son Goku, welcome back. Well, welcome in. You're a little bit late. Don't worry, you can always watch the playback.
We don't make mistakes.
Oh, Bacon
yeah,
just subscribed. Thank you for the sub, mate. Much appreciated. Still haven't got the boat I got on that one giveaway stream. You still didn't get your boat? You still didn't get your boat? We'll have to sort that out.
So yeah, if you set the angle mask to like -1, and then 0, 0, you'll see it'll come off a lot of your
angle mask -1, -1, 0, 0. Oops, 10.
And you can also play with like the height range and be like, no, don't have these over 300 meters. The reason that these have 2 parameters, by the way, for why they're really 4, right, is that there's the start of fading it out, and then essentially when do you want it faded out by,
okay,
or what the blend, right? That's why there's 2 values. So yeah, you can play with that. You can also make them emissive if you want them to glow in light, if you're doing like a radioactive level or something like that.
That's cool.
And yeah, so there's lots of like, and if people have ideas for sort of special effects things like this, I'm always open to them. It's really fun to write stuff like this, right?
So I've made it red, so if you can see the stream, you can really notice it now. Cool, they are long and wispy, aren't they? It's like ghosts, the souls of the departed, going across the land.
And
okay, cool.
When you add these, if you look at the bottom, you'll see that you usually have per texture properties to control them. So you can be like, you know what, I only want this to appear on this sand, right?
So this,
and so it's pretty extensible in terms of like filtering by terrain or things like that.
so the per texture properties, how does that link up? Because it's in a separate section than the wind section.
Right. So if you go down to the per texture properties,
Yeah.
the way this works is that when you turn one of them on, it recompiles the shader to have that code in it, so you don't pay the cost otherwise. And then you basically have a slider up at the top here, the index.
Yep.
That's which texture you're looking at. So you can choose a texture,
Oh,
and then you can slide the around. And then there's an all button which says just set all these to the same value. Just handy, right? So we could filter this to not happen on certain textures.
Awesome. So, oh man, that's nuts. Damn.
So one of the things that's really cool about MicroSplat is it was born out of an optimization technique. Like basically, I was looking at a shader that had come out and trying to figure out why its performance was what it was, and I started thinking, well, how would I build? That one's not on the terrain, so it's not going to do much. But how would I build a really fast traditional splat map style shader for Unity? And that kind of was the birth of it. And so the thing is even if you have 32 textures on this terrain, MicroSplat is only ever going to sample 4 sets of textures. And it also packs all the textures together so that the entire PBR spec only happens in 2 texture samples. So if you look at the bottom here in the debug section, you can see it actually shows you how many samples it's using.
Oh, yeah.
So as you add more features on, you get an idea of what the relative cost of those features by looking at those sample counts.
I just taking up a drink. I'm getting a dry mouth. I'm getting so excited. This is tasty. What other modules can I play with?
Well, there's terrain blending. There's
Can we stick a rock in?
Texture clusters.
Let's do a bit of terrain blending, and then we'll do a texture cluster. So I want to chuck some rocks and stuff, and then have them look nice. How much is this asset? I just had a question. How much is this asset? I'll let you field that question.
The core one is free, and features you pay for. So it depends on the feature, but basically everything's between $5 and $20.
Which ones are currently in the May Madness?
Which ones are what?
In the May Madness.
Oh, in the May Madness sale? Currently, let's see. The only 2 that are $20 were in the May Madness sale. So it's terrain blending and streams and lava.
They're, I guess, at 30% off.
Something like that. They're $14 instead of $20. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, I've just dropped a rock. Hang on, let me put it on some grass. Hang on, let me put it over here. Because rock on rock is a little bit too rocky. I'm going to turn off the wind for the moment.
I mean, you could leave it on too.
All right, fine, I'll leave it on. Let's go crazy. Alright, so I've got this rock floating in the air. Let me just dump it down. Gonna.
Yep. And turn off advanced details because we're not using it.
What's the difference between MegaSplat and MicroSplat with all the add-ons? Oh, Son Goku, you really did come late. You really did come late.
Okay.
Can I answer this?
Do the quick version
Can I see if I remembered? So MegaSplat allows you to do all of this lovely shader shenanigans on meshes, whereas MicroSplat is only having to worry about the terrain. That's the main difference between them. Did I get that right?
Yep. And the other one is that MicroSplat actually has more features that it can do because it only works on terrain and is a lot easier to use. MegaSplat's a little more of a shader guy's version of it as opposed to like a user-friendly version. Although it's not too bad, but.
Right,
I personally recommend MicroSplat for anybody working with terrains, unless you need some of the things that MegaSplat can do. The blending, one of the things is that MegaSplat uses a 3-point blend, so it's essentially using barycentric blending instead of bilinear. And some people don't like the way that looks, and it tends to require a little more careful painting than MicroSplat, which tends to be a little closer to the way Unity terrains are generally working. So there's a bunch of conversion steps, and MegaSplat actually replaces the entire texturing system for Unity. It has its own painter, its own format, and all these things. So it's kind of a bigger commitment in both learning and than MicroSplat, which I think is a little more just throw it on and it just works.
All right, we've got I've got my rocks put down as if a bear had just come and visited us.
Yep.
So now what do we do?
Yep. So the first thing is hit the terrain, turn on the terrain blending.
Okay. You are now on.
And that will recompile the shader.
Yep. Done.
And the next thing you need to do is select the terrain.
Okay. Done.
And there's a button on there to generate the terrain descriptor.
Yes. Generate terrain descriptor data.
Yep. So click that.
Done.
What this does is it generates a bunch of data that the terrain blending and the streams and lava system use. So if you're using any of those, you have to do that. It shows you how much memory it's using for your current terrain. And by the way, any of these steps that we're doing, you can do them on all your terrains at once. If you have a big world, it's got like 64 terrains or something, you just select all the terrains, you hit convert, it'll convert them all, and they'll all share the same system.
Can I,
so
just before
now select.
Sorry, mate. Just hate to just butt in, but Adam's saying he's got to pick up his nephew in 20 minutes. Will he miss the giveaway? I tell you what, guys. On the hour, in 12 minutes time, I'll do the giveaway. If that's okay. And then we'll carry on, which is fun. Have you seen a giveaway before my stream, Jace?
No.
Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. It's so well organized. All right, so we've turned it on to a blending.
Okay, so then select your rock.
Okay, gonna call him Rocky.
And then add the terrain blending component to it.
All right, terrain. Okay, I can't see any terrain. Maybe if I just search for blend.
So like
MicroSplat blendable object.
Let me.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
So now I've got MicroSplat blendable object on Rocky. It's ticked. Blend distance 1, normal distance 1, blend contrast 0, curve 1, slope filter 1, contrast 20, noise 0.35.
Yep. So if you adjust that, what is it called? The blend distance parameter, you're going to see the terrain texture kind of come up over the object. Just set it like 20 or something large.
Blend distance.
Yeah. Oh, is it not coming over the object? What did we forget to do?
Nothing.
I select the terrain really quick. Say it has. I can't even see anything on the screen. It says it has a descriptor.
Yep.
And your blend mat. You have a blend mat in there, right?
Yep.
That should be. And then
we don't make mistakes.
Select the object again and try just disabling and re-enabling the script on it, the MicroSplat blendable object script.
Yep. Thank you for the sub, by the way. Cyborg coming in with a sub just as we're trying to work out how to get our blending working. Much appreciated. Don't forget, anyone who's a sub, pop over to Discord, !Discord to someone in chat, please, and link your Twitch with your Discord, and you get access to the special secret super place that has all of the lovely gifts and goodies that only subs get. And that includes the code for my tutorials and my love.
Let's have one more.
And Cyborg's also chucking in.
Oh, wait a second. I think I see the rock group 5 here. That isn't actually the one. Select that.
Hang on. This one?
Rock. Yeah, we put the component on the wrong thing. It needs to be on the one with the mesh. We're on a game object. So you can go ahead and remove the blendable object script and put it on the child of this, which is the actual mesh.
Of course we did.
Oh, and it's a bunch of rocks. Well, we could put it on. We can either break one out or just put it on all of them. Select them all and add it.
Should we select them all? Should we go crazy?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Squits and giggles. Oh! It's completely gone. Where's my rocks gone? They've all gone mossy.
So yeah, so just less. That's the distance of how far it's going to blend over the object.
Hang on, and I think I've blended your microphone into your jumper as well. Okay. Are you still there?
All right.
There you go. I can hear you again now.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. So yeah, so it's really easy to add this to your meshes. You can use the contrast to control how sharp the blending is.
Holy crap!
And then you can actually, there's another little trick you can do. Is there's this thing called a slope filter.
Can I just say that on
so
RTP,
if you
this
actually
was
turn
so hard. This used to be so hard on RTP.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to make things easy. Because then you use it more.
So the
slope filter actually, what that allows you to do is put some of the texture on top of the object, yes. Right? So if you have a mossy area, you can be like, hey, I want moss to go up the side, but I also want a little bit on top of the rock.
No, I love this.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then there's a noise and contrast setting that can kind of like, play with those, the blend there, and make it a little rougher or smoother. And if we turn on snow...
snow? Hang on. Let's go with... Global snow.
Yeah.
The PBR Rocks pack has a similar thing, Chase. The PBR Rock Paps, everything's gone white. That he had a similar thing where he had on each rock you could add moss and tweak it and disable, like scale it back and add noise.
Oh, weird! You're getting
wow.
Why does that turn completely white?
What did I do?
Actually, go to your snow parameters. We'll zoom out on the scene. I think we have snow all over the ground, basically.
Yeah. I did global snow. Did I do the wrong one?
Yep. No, that's the right one. We just want to adjust it so that there's not so much snow over everything.
Okay, here's the snow parameters. Can you use this script to camouflage walking creatures? Oh, Sengoku, good question. So could we use this for camo? No.
And I think the way you'd want to do that is with reconstructing the roll position in the depth buffer anyway, or just reading the color buffer. I think you'd want to do that a different way than that. It's meant for static objects. Okay. So go ahead and let's see. Turn up the height clearing a little bit.
Okay.
And let me just turn it on here so I can follow along.
So I go all the way up to 1, and then it does something. Other than that, I didn't really get any impact. So if I reduce the amount...
Yeah, I just want to get it so we have some characteristic to the snow. So for some reason, the blendable object snow seems like... If you zoom in on your rock, it looks like it isn't like something's. Is this what version of Uni are you using?
2007.4. So my
Interesting. It looks like I have a bug.
MicroSplat terrain blend material properties automatically managed. It's got a big white.
Yeah, the fact that the shader is white is very odd. They changed the shader compiler recently, and I've been slowly finding little bugs with it that I have to work around, and I think that's what's happened here. So if this was in an earlier version of Unity, or by the time I fix this in a day or two, you can see now that your terrain blending here has this object snow option, and it has a snow width, and that lets you actually put snow onto your objects in the scene using the terrain blending component. So if you have this scene that has dynamic snow, you don't need a different shader to put snow onto these objects. You can use the terrain blending feature to do it. But I'll have to work around this compiler bug. I think they put the new compiler in 2017.3. So anyway, we can turn off the global snow for now because that's gonna.
Yeah, but let's before I turn it off, let's do have a look at how it affects the terrain though.
Sure.
So I've got. Let me go back to my snow settings. So if I want to have more snow on the tops than the bottom.
Okay, so for the actual snow, there's a couple options, or a bunch of options. Mine is still compiling here so I can see the parameters.
Here we are. So these are all the different flavors of all the different modules. So global snows. I want to put global snow. Now you've read the manual and you know how your system works. I want snow on the top, but not so much on the slopes and on the bottom.
Right. So yeah, I just fixed that bug instead of.
And if those who missed earlier were, yes, Jason is obsessive. So things consume him when he starts. Like he saw this bug and he's now fixed it.
Okay, so let's see here. Snow. Here we go. I just need to get the editor up because I can't see it on your stream. Okay, so what you have is basically diffuse map and normal map, which I automatically set if you don't have your own. You have your UV scale and you have an amount of snow. And then the height clearing basically says look at the height data and clear. Basically, you can clear snow off the tops of rocks. So when you think about animating snow coming into your scene, you're going to want it to animate in where the snow falls on the tops of the rocks and everywhere all at once. But when snow melts, the top of the rock is going to melt first, right? In a lot of cases, and it's going to stay in it stays in the shadows, but it's going to stay in the cracks and stuff longer.
Yeah.
And then erosion clearing is basically the same type of thing, but using the AO data. For the ambient inclusion. So you can use those to kind of control, to kind of create the sort of dirtiness of how much snow versus terrain there is in any given area. And you can animate all this stuff, of course. And then the height range says, okay, where does snow exist? Between 50 meters high and 200 meters high, it'll be 100% snow, right? And anything above there will have snow. And then there's an angle range, which controls essentially like whether snow appears just on the tops of things or across the full spectrum, and that's like a little it's got that I don't know what you call that dual slider thing so you can adjust basically the angle range and where and the slope it is. Crystals controls when snow ages, what happens is the little particles of snow freeze and turn into crystals. And so as you play with that parameter, it changes the look of the snow to look older or younger. So sort of fluffy versus crunchy snow. If you've ever been skiing, you're very aware of the difference. And then melt will control essentially the amount of wetness around the edge of the snow. Because when snow is melting, it produces water around it. And then finally, you have the up vector, which allows you to control what direction the snow fell from. So if you're in the beginning of the thing, you might want to start with an up vector that's at an angle based on the wind. And so that gives you the ability to animate snow in and out of your scene in a very realistic way with all those parameters. And you'll notice there's these little G's next to some of them. If you hit those, it recompiles the shader, and what it does is make that a global variable. And so global shader variables you can access from anywhere, and so systems like Enviro and stuff can easily link in without knowing anything about MicroSplat or knowing anything about your trains. They can actually just set these global variables and relay that information. And then I actually have a system on my GitHub that allows you to make global variables on timeline. So if you want to animate these properties on timeline, you can do it that way. And I should probably add some other ones, expose some other ones as globals too.
And then can I add like those footsteps in the snow add-ons and stuff? How would I do that?
I don't have a module for that right now. In fact, both Antonio, who does Cascade with me, and Leonard, who does Vegetation Studio, they both actually started modules to do stuff like that and then just have not finished them. One of us will write one eventually.
Wasn't there that Beast or something?
But
remember, there was a thread. Somebody made a picture of a footprint in the snow, and his competition was, can you guess what my asset's going to be?
That was Beast, and I had a particular problem with that asset. So what he did was he used real displacement textures, and then talked about how it was this new way to do normals for tessellation. The problem, though, with that is that what he did for this shader, it was basically a standard shader with tessellation, which is a useful asset. So I don't want to be too hard on it. But he basically renormalizes or recalculates the normals based on the displacement. But that is not actually how normals are computed when you make a normal map. The normal map is assuming that the polygon is flat. So essentially what it was doing was making the normals wrong. So I think he had an option to turn that off. But yeah, that was the big thing. So if you've never seen real displacement textures, they're very, very nice textures. And when you use tessellation with them, they look really nice. They're expensive, but they're really well done.
So if we want things to look nice, should we, or I'm confused now.
About which? About real displacement textures,
Yeah.
or? I mean, I think real displacement textures are really nice. I think they did a really good job with those texture packs. If you need textures for your terrain, they're a great choice. But substances, and there's a lot of good options for textures out there these days. What I always find hard about it is trying to find the perfect combination of textures. But getting the height map data and the normal data that's really high quality, those two things probably matter more than anything else.
You don't want something that looks beautiful but runs like a dog.
Well, the textures aren't normally going to, texture data is texture data, right? The shader is where the performance is going to be.
Look at this, it's beautiful. All right, let's turn off our snow so I can have a look at my funky rocks again.
Okay.
Sleepless footsteps adds footsteps. Son Goku's talking code to me. Do you make the textures your bundle or you buy them from somewhere? Oh, very good question.
The textures we're using here are included in the core package. They're just a couple textures I had around from MegaSplat. And the example projects have textures in them, but it's not really a texture pack. In fact, the Wind and Glitter module, I originally wanted to team up with a texture artist and sell a desert texture pack that came with that module, but I couldn't find somebody who was really interested in doing the texture work and didn't feel like doing it myself, so I just released it as a module instead.
All right, now where's my rock gone? Rocky, where are you? Here's Rocky.
Yeah, that should be blending again now it snows off.
It's just nuts how this blending works. I mean, why was RTP so difficult in comparison?
I It used a different type of technique, and you know, I don't know. It's just you go down one route, and it can sometimes be hard to get a tool chain to really be easy, depending on which technique you use. Different techniques are going to have different advantages. I think he actually generates meshes to do the blend, which means if you have like a really strong AO on your scene, like I'm not building a mesh that goes between the two objects, so you still have a hard edge there in the depth map. So, depending on which technique you're using, there's different benefits and disadvantages and stuff you have to deal with. So, so what else should we play with? We paint streams or lava. We could set up the dynamic stuff. We could set up texture clusters with triplanar as a module.
Yeah, let's do texture cluster.
Okay.
There's a lot of people asking for that.
So texture clusters is an idea I got in MegaSplat, and basically the way the MegaSplat blending techniques works is that it's always blending between 3 textures. If you just paint down one texture, it's still sampling 3 of them all the time, but it only ever samples 3 for each layer. And so you can have 256 textures on the terrain, but only 3 of them are sampled. And I was like, well, if I'm going to sample 3 textures, I could make it sample 3 different ones. And so in MegaSplat, I made a whole brush system that determines which texture goes where on each vertice, and then it blends between them. And when I first did MicroSplat, I was like, oh, so bummed to lose texture clusters because it's like the best anti-tiling thing ever. And then I thought about it for a while, and I was like, I could do it a different way. And so that's what this is. So if you turn on texture clusters, and we'll just set it to 2 or actually, go ahead and set it to 3 variants. I guess, because we already have the arrays.
Okay, I'm going to click 3 now.
Oh, well, that's fine.
No, I've done. I've gone to 3. I've gone to 3. It's too late. 3's bigger than 2,
okay.
So obviously I went for it.
So the main difference here, right? So the main difference here is: do I want 3 different textures or only 2? And if I only have to sample 2 textures, it's better on performance, and it also means I don't have to make as many textures. Okay. So your terrain is gone white because those other textures aren't really filled out yet. So let's just use, if you go into the texture cluster folder in MicroSplat, I already have these arrays set up, texture clusters.
Just going to turn off the wind, just so I can see the texture, the terrain better. Okay. So I'm in texture clustering.
All right. So you'll see that there are slots for texture arrays there. I'm just waiting for my machine to catch up. 1 second. I do everything on a crap laptop because if you want to be performance sensitive, then you should write on a shitty machine.
Too many people tell me that, and I should agree, but I'm always like, but I want a nice machine. So I've got a crappy machine in the corner.
Yeah, I mean,
I still do everything
a nice
on
one too.
And the thing is that if my wife hears people saying that I should be working on a shitty machine, it means that she gets my better graphics card, and I can't have that.
Sure.
So we've got Albedo 2.
I have a beefy desktop.
Yeah, just don't tell the missus where you hide your beefy desktop, and everything's fine.
Yeah. So there's a slot for the second texture array of diffuse textures and normal textures. And if you go into the actual, there's that, let me find it here, the terrain blending examples folder, you'll see that in the MicroSplat data directory, or sorry, not terrain blending, we want texture clusters.
Yep. So texture clusters and then the subfolder examples.
And then go into the MicroSplat data, you can see how there's a C2 array for diffuse, and then the C2 array for normals SEO. Put those in those slots. And I'll show you how to make those in a second.
And the 3?
No, I mean, unless you set it to 3.
Yeah, I set
it to 3?
Yeah, I did set it to 3.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
So Now, if you go to the actual the material again, so we
Yep.
can edit some parameters, and you go to the texture cluster section,
Yep.
which I think you were kind of in.
Yep.
You'll see that there's essentially you have the arrays and there's all this cluster noise. This is actually the noise texture it uses to determine which texture goes where.
Okay.
And then what you can do is you can change the there's a bunch of parameters here like scale variation
Yeah, cluster
and the cluster
control.
contrast
Yeah.
that will it controls like how it's blending between those textures because it's doing height map blending between all of them. And then you could use the scale. This is actually the scale of the noise. So if you make that noise bigger or smaller, it's going to affect which texture gets chosen where. But then what you'll see is that this really breaks up any kind of tiling you have, because now you're getting this constant variation between three textures, and so they're never quite the same. Oh, hang on one second. I need to get this. Hello. Great. Are you all set?
Hang on, and then. So I'm playing about with this. This is freaky. This is really nice. This, oh my word, I'm just, I could sit here playing with dials all day long. You don't have a nice machine, Fresh Meat? What do you mean you don't have a nice machine? Why don't you have a nice machine? I need to get you a nice machine, mate. We'll have to do a competition giveaway. Nice machines for Fresh Meat. What do you reckon? You got to show some puddles. We had puddles before, but let's put some. As the thing. All right. Let's put puddles. Let's put puddles in. Oh, where's my puddles? Do we have any puddles? Let's zoom out a little bit. Dude, this is nuts. How easy it is to just click things and play with them. Here we go.
MicroSplat, and you go to Effects Painter.
Add your mute while you're on the phone. So.
Oh, okay.
Here you go. I got you back now.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I was just playing with puddles because we got Warlock saying you need to do puddles.
Okay.
All right. So you need to go to Window MicroSplat FX Painter. What's that?
Yes. So this is a painting app that lets you paint streams, lava, and puddles and wetness.
So Windows MicroSplat FX Painter. Please select a terrain to begin. And now I've just got this, and I'll just just click stuff.
So if you dock that window somewhere, that's probably the easiest thing to do,
Yeah,
and
'cause
select your terrain.
Nobody can see that. Here we go.
Yep.
Alright, so I've got my terrain, and I've got puddles, and I've got this white magic. Okay.
Your stream is stopped for me. I can't quite see what you're doing.
Can anyone else see what I'm
but if you go
doing?
to the
And let's just make sure. Is the stream alright for everyone in chat? Give me a thumbs up. We got Jason can't hear me anymore talking about puddles, I think. Okay, well, yeah, we're good. So.
Okay. So basically, you can use this to paint puddles wherever you want now.
Okay.
It's a little painting app. And you'll notice here that there's also lava streams and wetness. And you can use these to go and paint, data down. There's actually stuff for wetness that will compute wetness from like a rainstorm for you.
Okay, cool.
So,
we just had somebody asking about Enviro, if this can link in with that.
It does. The Enviro guy just released integration for MicroSplat. I haven't checked it out yet to see what he integrated with. but it's easy enough to do the integration. So the cool thing about wetness is that you can, for instance, have like a house and it has floors and things, and it'll actually raycast down and figure out where the rain would hit for you.
Ooh.
So you don't have to go paint it over the whole scene. And then you can lower the wetness all the way down, and when it rains, you can raise it up and everything gets wet, right?
Damn.
Puddles, they also support raindrops and things like that, so you can actually get little raindrops in them. And you can use the painter to paint where you want the puddles, or you can procedurally generate them with something. And then streams and lava, you can paint if you want statically defined places of streams and lava as opposed to dynamic stuff.
Oh, that's nice. So I got my glowing orb, but now if I want to, how do I make it paint on the ground then?
You just start painting.
But,
are you on the puddles tab?
Yeah, I'm on the puddles.
Oh, what is your? Hang on, let me just turn mine on so I can be doing
Puddles
the same thing you're doing.
blend 6, puddles max 1.
One second. What is your target? Your target for the brush set to? Because if it's set to 0, that's erasing puddles.
1.
Okay. One moment. Turning mine on.
What did I break?
Or what did I break? Puddles.
Increase the brush size a little.
Hang on one second.
Hold a key while painting. What key? Bug finding with the messy coda. You both. I broke lots of stuff. Higher flow. Got him. Hey.
So yeah, turn up your flow, and that will probably make it happen quicker.
My flow is pretty big.
Is it working for you?
Oh, I made my brush size massive. That's what my problem was. I had a little
Huge
brush size. Okay, let's make my brush a little bit smaller. Here we go. So what does the flow do?
So the flow is the brush flow, like how much are you painting down, like in Photoshop, you know? So if you turn that up, it'll become 100% puddles quicker.
And my fall off is my little bit blending out of it, I suppose.
Yeah.
So basically, you just got to sit here and twiddle the dials about, keep painting, and see what you like better.
Yeah, or again, for wetness and streams and lava, there's all kinds of stuff for, you know, dynamics and computing things. I need to actually, I promised somebody in chat, I can't remember who, to look at the puddles again recently because they said that they don't look as nice as the MegaSplat ones. So.
Why don't they look as nice as the MegaSplat ones?
I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet. So I need to do a comparison.
You need to fix that. Okay.
Okay. All right. Run because we have to pick up our school bus.
Okay. That will be a good thing. Don't leave your school bus in the middle of nowhere. I'm going to say a massive thank you from everyone in chat to Jason for taking the time out on your busy day to come and play, teaching us about MicroSplat, MegaSplat, also explaining to us what on the horizon for Unity 2018. And also, I mean, I'm just still in awe about what you've been getting up to in the last 25 years, mate.
Well, I got to keep life interesting, right?
Indeed. And it seems like you've always been keeping life interesting. Well, I hope life continues to stay interesting to you, mate, and catch you later.
Cool. All right. Thanks, man. Bye.
Wow. Okay. That was Jason Booth, the legend, the guru, the master, going off to get a school bus. What does this man not do? He does everything. Legend. Well, that was it for my Jason Booth interview. I hope you've learned something. I hope you had fun playing about with MicroSplat. And don't forget, MicroSplat is free. But all the other modules cost a bit of money if you want to have different functionality. But the base MicroSplat even is free on the asset store. I will put a link in the description down below. If you do like these game dev interviews, you can catch more. You can catch more of them every Saturday live on Twitch or www.twitch.tv/themessycoder. That's right, where I'll be streaming 9 PM UK time, 4 PM Eastern, 3 PM Central, 1 PM Pacific. Yep, I should get that tattooed on my body somewhere. I won't tell you where it's going to be. So if you do like these videos and want to see more, click on that big juicy red subscribe button down below. Tell all of your friends and neighbours about the Messy Coder. If you do like it, click it. Till next time. If you want to see more of my crazy videos, click on the left side of your screen now. And down below, there's that big juicy subscribe button, and right next to it is the magic bell that if you click it, it will tell you if I've got a new video coming out. Till next time.